What's up, guys? It's Tanner Sparks with Perspective Wrestling and Perspective Fitness, and I'm here today with Eric Pullman on Instagram, Eric_Pullman Performance. And so recently, Eric's been jumping into the wrestling scene, just giving a lot of valuable advice away when it comes to strength training, conditioning, all that stuff. So I thought it was a no-brainer, basically, to have this guy on the podcast because I think he can provide some extremely valuable content and extremely valuable wisdom when it comes to that side of things, just deeper than the Instagram videos that he makes. So yeah, Eric, how are you doing today?
Doing well. Happy to be on the podcast.
Cool.
Talk a little more than 15-second
Yeah,
Instagram reels.
really. And that's another thing too. So make sure I'll put the link under Eric's name or under Eric's face right now. So make sure you follow him on Instagram, Eric_Pullman Performance. And then if you guys haven't already, make sure you follow me at Perspective Wrestling and at Perspective Fitness. I'll pop those ads right below my face as well. But anyways, getting right into it. So Eric, just talk about your background. Just a little bit about where you're from, how you came to the spot that you're at today, and yeah.
So my name's Eric Pullman. I started wrestling in seventh grade, wrestled all throughout high school, and then in college. My junior year was COVID. My senior year, I had surgery. I didn't get to wrestle. And then freshman and sophomore year, I wrestled a club.
Mhm.
So I continued to wrestle through COVID and helped coach and all that stuff. So wrestled for about 10 years and helped coach. I do jujitsu now, still get on the mats. But I got here from, I was a baseball player for a while, played that pretty seriously, kind of got bored and liked wrestling more. I liked the intensity and the seriousness of it. I wasn't that good, but I liked training and I liked the atmosphere of it.
Mhm.
And so I got really into the training side. I figured that was the way to get the advantage, and I just got absolutely obsessed with strength and conditioning. Both for the reason that it helped out, and I just liked it. I liked everything about it. I still remember my mom telling me like, you're watching bodybuilding videos all day and all that stuff because I really was. I was watching anything that I found entertaining, anything I found helpful, and anything that me and my friends would just enjoy together. So when we would hang out, it was just all our favorite YouTubers and watching videos. Like with never Netflix or movies or anything like that. It was just like
Yeah.
strength and conditioning YouTube.
Yeah. So
So
how old are you right now?
I'm 22.
22. Oh, cool. Dang. I thought you were way older than what you seem way older than, I mean, just with the content and the information that you have. But yeah, so what age did you say you started obsessing with that stuff?
I was probably 15 or 14.
15 and 4.
And
Okay.
then even before that, my brother and my dad were always into it. So my dad talks about how he worked out in the 70s and 80s. So
Yeah.
all that stuff, like I grew up around it.
Uh-huh. And then that's when you kind of just started hitting the gym pretty hard or just trying to absorb as much information as you can about that topic.
Yeah, it was both an interest of I liked working out, and then I also just found the videos entertaining.
Yeah.
I had no problem just watching them on a night hangout that we had and
Yeah.
just all watching the YouTubers. So I found it entertaining. I found everything about it. We had a mini gym in his backyard. We all pooled in the money, the four of us, to get that rack on Amazon, a random barbell, drive an hour away to get, save
Hmm.
$20. It's
Hmm.
what we did. We were in 10th, 11th grade. So,
Yeah.
and then from there, we just kind of kept going.
So where are you from?
I'm on Long Island.
Long Island. And then
Yeah,
where'd
New
you
York.
wrestle at in college?
So just Central Florida
Okay.
at their club, and then a local college over here with their club.
Okay. So yeah, so then you traveled quite a distance, right? I mean, maybe I'm stuck with geography, but you traveled quite a distance for college, did you not? To go to UCF.
Yeah, and it wasn't just for wrestling. I wanted to go to school down south and get out of the cold,
Yeah.
and they had a wrestling club, and I kind of just was like, felt at home. Everyone I ended up being friends with was on the wrestling team, and we had practice every day and went to tournaments all over. So it was a great experience.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people like these days are so fixated on like going Division One. I want to go to Division One. And I think that a lot of people, like for me, I went Division 2. And I think a lot of people kind of like overlook the competition or overlook like the experience that you get when it comes to college wrestling. So I just wanted to hear a little bit about club wrestling and just what you took from college wrestling, just as a human, as an athlete, insight that you gained from doing that, and then just go ahead and talk about like club wrestling too, because I know a lot of there's a lot of studs in club wrestling. I've watched the national tournament and I've watched the finals of the NWCA, and so just talk about moving away to Florida. You're around new people, new environment, and just what you took from that.
So I loved it. I can go off about club wrestling because it really just matters where you're at and what college you're at. So UCF is a top 5 school every single year in club wrestling. We shut out a Division 3 team. We used to travel, so from Florida, we traveled all around Florida, North Carolina, Texas, Nevada. We traveled all around. And to me, I got really lucky because I was one of the worst guys on the team, but it was just one of those things that we needed a 149 pounder.
Mm-hmm.
So I got to wrestle, but it was full of state placers, state champs from Florida, and I loved it. I just got an amazing experience because I was around 21-year-olds, 23-year-olds. I got beat up all the time, and it was just great. I'm nothing special where I should go D2, D1 and just ride the bench. I wasn't there to just be on the team. I wanted to wrestle,
Mm-hmm.
and I got to do that because that I was wrestling at my level.
Yeah.
And you go to opens, you're wrestling a backup. We had kids be kids from UNC, from schools like that.
Yeah.
They're backups. They're both college wrestlers, and it's
Mhm.
competitive matches. So
Yeah. I saw that so much, like wrestling at opens, just like over in the Midwest. I'm from Missouri, and so we were wrestling just like in Indianapolis, all this stuff. So we'd wrestle like Indiana, Purdue, all those Midwest like D1 schools, and I was just surprised. I was actually shocked at some of the kids. Like I remember it was only my second year too, and I was wrestling a kid from Indiana and I ended up tech falling him. And I was like talking to my coach after the match, and I'm like, how does that kid get on the Indiana team? And like it's just like some people don't realize, like, I don't know if it's like an ego thing or like what it is, but like it's like that choice of like, would you rather go to Division 1 and just ride the bench the whole time, or would you rather like go somewhere else that best fits you and be able to gain the valuable experience of like being a starter, being on like high pressure stages? Like I was looking you up before this, like found a match of you on Flow. You're wrestling at the national tournament, regardless of like what division it is. Like those are high pressure situations, and those are like irreplaceable moments like in your life where you learn so much. And so yeah, no, like that whole thing really confuses me, and I think a lot of people need to like understand, like, hey, it's not all about going Division 1. It's not all about trying to get on like these D1 teams. It's about trying to get within in the lineup, trying to put yourself in high pressure situations that are going to make you learn a lot as a whole.
and I think like it just depends on what you want to do. So my sophomore year, I wrestled a kid from Hofstra and I
Yeah.
tech followed him.
Uh-huh.
And then I'm friends with some of those kids, and they were just like, he came here because he wanted to go to Hofstra. He's a great kid. He's a super hard worker, and he just loves wrestling. So he wanted to go to Hofstra. He loves wrestling, and this was a way for him to do it. And
Yeah.
that's great. Like you just have to decide what you want to do.
Yeah.
If you are not at the Division 1 level and you want to really wrestle and improve, I'm not the biggest fan of that just because there's great competition at all levels, and
Mhm.
and there's plenty of state champs in D3 and even club wrestling. It just understand what you want to do, understand the team at the school. So my sophomore year of club wrestling, I was back home, and so club wrestling is either like UCF practice every single day, 2 hours travel all around. I got 35 matches my freshman year of college. Like
Pretty
it was
good.
awesome.
Yeah.
Sophomore year, like there was barely a team. I used to go to different high schools and clubs and just drive around Long Island with partners that would wrestle with me and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So, I don't think we had any practices the whole entire year. I was like one of 4 kids on the team, and it was just so it's just all about the club situation is a little different all around.
Yeah, and then like moving off that, uh you said your sophomore year, what sophomore year it was COVID.
Junior year was COVID.
Junior year was COVID. So I think it's for me, I think it's super important that like a lot of people talk about like not like directly COVID and its effects, but just COVID and its effects that it had on people that were in college, people that were playing sports. Because just like you, like it was my third year in college is when nationals got canceled, and then the next year we didn't even get to wrestle. So um
Hmm.
talk about, and then as a student too, like talk about your experience during COVID. um just like for me, I'm thinking about, for me, like mental health, just like physical health, a lot of things that like played a part in like the quality of my life during COVID, just being taken away from the sport, being taken away from my friends, being taken away from like being able to do activities that I like to do before, being able to taken away from just like going out and getting a simple meal, going out and just getting dinner with your buddies or your parents or anything like that. Like all of that was taken away from us. So go ahead, just talk about your experience, because you were in college, which I think that college people that were in college, people that were in school at the time that was happening, especially college, were the ones who got the most wrecked by it. But just talk about your experience during COVID as an athlete and as a student as well.
So COVID, I feel like COVID was so different in the first February through the summer.
Yeah.
And then after that, everyone seemed kind of done with it and wanted to, take their own precautions and
Uh-huh.
open stuff up. And to me, it was that second half when everything seemed to start moving and opening up, and
Yeah.
wrestling was still canceled.
Yeah.
And that's what was the tough part for me because, Division One, there was, without the Ivies, they were wrestling just I don't know if club was going on or our school didn't allow a team or whatever it was. So that part was very different. I still remember saying goodbye on spring break and being like, "Yeah, I don't know if I'll see you again." And my teacher was like, "Yeah, you'll definitely be back in school. Don't even give it a second thought." And I was like, "All right, we'll see." Um, that was strange. Getting used to it was strange, but I felt like after that spring semester, when we went home after spring break and then never came back, I kind of liked it.
Yeah.
I always tried to just have as much work as possible, and all the school for me was just kind of getting the degree and learning in that sense. But
Hmm.
I liked being online, having my own schedule, having my own time, and I was always in so many online courses and mentorships and stuff like that, where I kind of had more time for that stuff. I had more time for the working out and training people and whatever it was. I got to do more of the stuff that I wanted to do. Not that college is bad for everybody. I don't want to get into that whole thing, but for me, I just had a lot going on anyway that I found a way to make myself busy,
Uh-huh.
and it almost worked out for me in the school side.
Yeah.
But the wrestling side was terrible, obviously.
Yeah. And I think like I know you said you didn't want to get into the college thing, but I think like for me it kind of showed me like, oh wow, like our education, I'm like yearning for some knowledge. Like our teachers, like we're on Zoom, like everyone's laying in bed. Our teacher does not care. And so like I think it was just like kind of showed me like, I wouldn't like not technically, but like during COVID, I was like, dang, like I could be learning a lot more valuable a lot more valuable knowledge, or like gaining a lot more valuable knowledge like somewhere else than I would if I was like in these online classes. And I know that like that definitely kind of showed me like, dang, I could probably do it on my own. Like, so I went ahead and started my own business, and have been doing that and have really enjoyed that. And I think without like COVID, without like I would call it like my mind waking up to like maybe getting an internship and applying, because like my grades kind of slipped too. I was like, oh dang, like now I'm not going to even be able to get an internship, and they're not going to even want to understand, like they don't care, like these corporations don't care. So I studied business, and so I was like thinking like, oh, these corporations don't care, like there's no shot I'm going to be able to get an internship. And I think that through that experience it really showed me like hey, like I'm gonna take it accountability within myself, like to gain this knowledge and gain this valuable information that I need to be able to understand like how that world works and how I can provide value in that world. And so I want you to go ahead and talk about like what did you do like after you got your degree, after you got your undergrad, what was like your mindset? What were the first steps that you took to get to the point where you are at now?
So I started training wrestlers 4 years ago, other wrestlers, and of course I trained myself and my friends around me. And when I was at UCF, I used to, we always used to talk about it. So I've obviously been training wrestlers, I guess, a little longer because I've been training myself and my friends.
Uh-huh.
But training actual other high school wrestlers for the past 3 or 4 years, and COVID honestly sparked everything because everyone was home, nobody had anything to do, and everyone was just looking for, to get better for the next year
Mhm.
and to do something, get out of the house. So we had very, very tiny groups. Everything was, cleaned all the time and did that whole thing.
Yeah.
My rules were like, look, if they're hanging out and they're working out together already, then if they do it at my house under my supervision, it's not going to spread more or anything like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So, and then that was the beginning. That was, more towards the summer. That kind of kickstarted everything. From
Mhm.
there, I started training more, and it was like, all right, there's a business here. There's a training group here. I had over 25 athletes at one point, and it kind of had the domino effect. There were Division 1 football players, Division 1 throwers, um, other lacrosse players, big on Long Island. So it was just really cool that kind of catapulted everything for me.
Yeah.
And then from there, it was like, all right, there's something there. I got to keep running with this. Kept going on Instagram, kept doing that whole thing. And then a wrestling club owner was moving into a new space, and he was like, hey, I'd love to have a strength and conditioning spot at the wrestling club for the wrestlers. And he said, move in, take it. This is your space. And then boom. And I'm in here now.
Man,
So,
that's awesome. Yeah. So
and
it's oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
well, no, I was just going to say that it helped me immerse myself more in the wrestling scene.
Hmm.
Seeing even the wrestlers I don't train, I used to coach way more here, but I used to coach here more. I still do here and there, and I'll wrestle here and there. But um, like just being around wrestlers all the time is where I get all these video ideas from. I
Yeah.
train wrestlers all the time, and I'm surrounded by them all the time. I
Mhm.
ask Q&As all the time, and then I get questions and conversations, and then I'm like, all right, that's I'll share that with the rest of the world.
Yeah.
I think of for all these 15-second reels, it's like they're just conversations that I have and things
Mhm.
that I think of. So, and then I'm also uh, at Long Island University with the wrestling team there.
Yeah. Oh, that's pretty cool. So like are you just like the wrestling strength trainer? Is that like you
Just wrestling.
how do you like
Yeah,
that?
no other sports. I love it. It's a lot of fun.
Because you probably
It's
got
it's
guys in there that are like 24 too, like those 6 years or whatever on the team.
there are two kids that are less than 12 months younger than me.
Yeah.
But it's cool because they don't, they trust me, and
Hmm.
it's almost a better bond where we can relate to each other. And
Yeah.
I've wrestled with them a few times and
Yeah.
practiced with them. So it's cool. I love it. And you get to, at that level, we get to work more closely with like planning practices, planning extra conditioning sessions, getting into nutrition a little bit with them,
Yeah.
and kind of dialing in on this holistic picture and not just saying like, here are the workouts you need to do, and I'll see you in 2 days.
Yeah.
So the coaches there, Coach Patrovich, Jesse Delvecchia is a coach there,
Hmm.
Johnny Arceri. So it's very cool. They lift with the team. It's a lot of fun there.
Yeah. And I think for me as like a college wrestler too, is like you have so much going on, like, or you feel like you have so much going on. And just like cutting weight just makes you feel like you have so much going on, like in your mind, your body feels like crap. And you got school and you got to focus on winning, you got to focus on getting better at wrestling. And so I think like a lot of times, like these high level, like just like any good wrestler in general is like they're like yearning for coaches who like will provide value on like the other end of just like, hey, I can trust this guy. I don't need to question this guy. And so like that, and I think that's where the people like that succeed the most, like that's their biggest strength is like, hey, I trust like my strength trainer, I trust like my coaches, I trust like my or like my teachers, like all that stuff. I don't need to question anything. And then when you're not questioning stuff, like you're fine. I've found that like you're performing the best. And so I think it's
We
super.
yeah, I always make that comment where I train wrestlers from, seventh grade wrestlers all the way, all the way through high school, and that's generally who's at the club.
Yeah.
And then I train the college guys that are, up to 22 years old or whatever. And it's funny because I always tell them, like, you guys who are just starting and are in seventh and eighth grade always ask me, like, is this TikTok exercise optimal and stuff like that. And those high level guys, the best wrestlers, the D1 guys, even the D1 high schoolers who are younger here, they just get it. They're just,
Yeah.
whatever I say, they'll do it. If I tell them to run through a wall, they'll ask me what's one. It's just funny how that is. It's the more experience, the more guys who need the nuances, who need the extra attention, the extra help, are just like, whatever you say, I trust you. And it's the eighth graders who just need the most basic plan, are always asking for the special, optimal exercises. And it's like, it really is. But it's no harm to anybody. It's just what happens.
Yeah. And I think like you start to understand as you get older, it's like, it's not, I mean, it is really like what you're doing, but it's more about just being consistent and having like a good program. And then also being able to relate with a coach. Like, just the fact that like, you're probably like good acquaintances with a lot of, if not friends with a lot of those college guys. Like you guys can relate, you're the same age. So it's like, it's not just like a coach. It's like somebody that you can go in there and have like real conversation with. And I think that plays another huge role. And like, and I know our like strength trainer was pretty young at my college, and like, he was easy to talk to. He was easy to relate with. He understood like what being a college athlete was like. And so like that helped so much. And just within the strength and training, or strength and conditioning side of things. And but yeah, like moving on to that. So you guys at your guys' club, you guys have wrestling, jiu-jitsu, and you got a fitness gym all in one.
Jiu-jitsu is I go to a separate place. There's
Okay.
no, it's just it's wrestling all levels, youth, high school, college. And so that's Savage Wrestling Academy.
Yeah.
Justin Accordino runs it. He was an All-American Hofstra. He's an amazing guy. And then Sarah, I don't know if you ever heard the name Sarah. Matt Sarah is UFC champ. He runs a jiu-jitsu place, and I go there. So
Cool.
it's a separate place.
Yeah. So when it comes to cutting weight, as a wrestler, I know this is something that I struggle with. And I was watching Caden's YouTube video, and it's some stuff that he mentioned in there too that I felt like that I struggle with, that I wish I just had more clarity on when I was a wrestler. So just talk about cutting weight and mixing in strength training with cutting weight and strength training, because I know it can be super difficult. Like if like I was cutting weight and we had to do legs, like I would feel like, oh, I don't want to burn my legs out for practice, like by doing heavy weight. So just talk about like what you've learned and what you've noticed works the best. Like I'm cutting weight, I have a tournament on Saturday, but I also have to get strength training in.
At that higher level, and that's why I try so hard not to give these like one all blanket answers,
Yeah.
because I do see wrestlers who are in seventh grade, and I see wrestlers who are 22 years old, right? A 10-year difference from 12 to 22. And it's like those guys that are jacked and super strong, they need one set. They need one set. It doesn't need to be a crazy range of motion, but they need one or two sets or something that's just going to show their body like, hey, this is how we, let's get tight. Let's produce a lot of force, and let's keep that strength that I have. You have enough. If you're cutting weight, look, I get it. It sucks. I don't think the extra two sets of squats is going to help you win more matches. Yes, strength's important, all that stuff. But whether you do 2 or 4 sets isn't going to change the outcome of how you do.
Yeah.
But if you're younger, I like to look at it as more of like a full development. So when they get to that age, they're in that same boat. If you're in seventh grade, you're 12 years old. Like I'm in the camp that, one, if you're cutting a lot of weight at 12 years old, I'm not fully into that. And 2, it's like you're going to have to sacrifice somewhere. let's sacrifice a little bit more now, and maybe you get a little bit extra sore,
Yeah.
fine, but it'll help your development that in, you know, 2, 5, 6, 8 years that you'll be way better off. So I've been telling some of the kids here, it's like a little bit extra soreness now is worth it for a match down the road. 100% of this.
Yeah.
And on that, like kind of related, there was a kid who goes to the club here. He lost a very close match. He got in a weird position at the end of like there was 10 seconds left in the match. And I tell everybody this now. I'm like, the best thing that could have happened to him is that he didn't ride that kid out and he got in that weird position and he lost that match.
Yeah.
If he wins that match by riding that kid out and nothing happened, like that position might come up again at the sectional tournament, and now you know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
It seems annoying to lose in the moment, but you will 100% learn that more in the match than you would have at a practice or if you went over it in a different time. It's like kind of the same thing with doing the extra sets of squats. You'll get a little more sore now. Maybe you do have a tougher tournament and you lose close match. You felt like you were a little fatigued,
Mm-hmm.
but you'll be better overall. And that's all that you should care about. Zoom out, develop.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Just like, like if it just like putting it on like teeter totter or whatever, like, is it really important if I'm going to an open this weekend and like, or like if I'm going to practice tonight and my legs like are a little tired or like, and who's to say, like, we're wrestling 5 matches in a day in college, like by match number 5, like at an open, your tournaments are, or your legs are absolutely gassed. So it's like, honestly, I thought like, okay, like, oh, we did squats today. It's a Tuesday. I have a weigh-in on Saturday. Like, okay, my legs feel like crap. But now I have to go wrestle live and I have to figure out how to perform while my legs kind of feel like not so great. Like, how am I going to wrestle all this live? My legs don't feel great, but I still need to perform because I don't want to lose in practice either. And so I think that's another thing that like really helped me.
1,000%.
Yeah.
We the coach here always tells the guys that too. It's like it's okay to be sore. You're going to feel those feelings that you're like practice with those. That's amazing. You'll get better from it. You'll get used to those feelings now. And when you get into the matches, you'll be more comfortable with them.
Yeah.
So I 100% agree. It's tough to give just a black and white answer on that. Because I am also, I do understand that. It's like, look, getting sore now for practice is something that you're going to just need to be able to manage.
Yeah.
Manage. There's no one answer. It's like, how'd you feel? Practice crushed me. I wasn't able to do anything. All right, let's tone it down one notch. How'd you feel? That was all right. I think that was a good amount. Okay, cool. Then what if he still felt terrible? All right, let's turn it down one more notch. It's all about just managing, guessing, and checking.
Yeah.
Guess, check. Guess, check. We're not going to get it right on the first time. Let's just see how you feel. Let's put you in a circumstance that makes sense.
Yeah.
And let's go from there. And on the same note, though, wrestling is so important that that energy that you have needs to be spent on wrestling. Like, I'm also in the camp that let's find the minimum amount that we need you to do to get better and develop as an athlete, but also because that'll give you more energy on the mat. If your legs have a little bit better, then maybe you drill a technique a little better, right? If your legs are a little less sore, maybe you're finishing more shots. Maybe you're learning something more on the mat. That's going to outweigh leg strength. We all know those guys that have never lifted a weight in their lives and they're crazy strong on the mat. So it's that game. Again, it's just guess and check. Like, play around with it. Don't be afraid to give small alterations of what you're currently doing. Yeah.
And then like, I think another important thing that a lot of people like miss out on, and I know Habib talks about this like all the time, like, just like your recovery. And I think that a lot of people like, they get no recovery after they go and lift. And then like, I feel like crap for practice. And it's like, because you walk straight to your dorm and you went and ate breakfast and walked straight to your dorm and then sat there and played video games. Like, so talk about like what, when you see like, cause you study this a lot, obviously as well, like talk about recovery and things like great things to do to be able to recover your body after a lift to get ready for practice later on that day.
So everything about recovery starts with what you do. Everyone wants to do as much as they can and then get in the ice bath or sauna or something like that to try to, mitigate those effects. And then they'll be able to go crazy again. And it's like the number one part of recovering well and feeling good is managing the amount that you're doing.
Yeah.
So there is nothing in the world that's going to outweigh managing load. You can sleep, you can have proper nutrition with plenty of calories and good macronutrients and good timing. But if you're just doing too much too soon, you're just, scaling it down is going to help.
Yeah.
The other side of that is learning what works for you. So some people feel great on with their routine and they get into that like routine that I don't love, but they feel great at practice and that works for them. Like I don't love to get super in the way with routines. I promote sleep, I promote healthy nutrition and calorie intake, timing, managing stress, so not getting caught up on random stuff that is kind of getting in the way. Yeah. Other than that, I don't like to like overcomplicate what's going on. When I look at recovery, I'm like, all right, what are you doing right now? How can we alter that?
Yeah.
That has to be the number one thing. What are you doing outside? Are you sleeping enough, eating enough, doing that kind of stuff? Cool. Are you resting and just being ready when practice is here?
Mm-hmm.
Are you ready when lift is here? Cool. Other than that, I don't want to get too much into it. I just got a sauna for myself. I just got a cold plunge. Like I'm into that stuff. I think it's fun. But it's interesting how everybody wants to do as much as they can, and they're like, "Oh, I need the next recovery hack." It's like, one, dude, you just worked out a ton. You're gonna be sore. Like, we can't get rid of that. Two, let's see what you're doing and can we change that. So one of the things we do at LIU is we do this thing called the high-low method, where we try to the best of our abilities. It's a theory, it's a concept, and we try to implement it. It doesn't always work out perfectly. On our hard lift days, we also have hard practices. And it sounds a little counter. And then, so we'll have a hard lift day, hard practice. The next day will be more of a technique based, I think more top and bottom. I leave that up to the wrestling coaches.
Yeah.
But it's like one day you're stressing your system a lot, you're going to get fatigued. The next day, you're not going to stress your system, and that'll allow your body to recover and get back to baseline and hopefully a little bit higher.
Mm-hmm.
Where things like that, like setting up training in a holistic sense, is going to help you manage fatigue more than anything. Yeah. It's kind of like it's just funny that you say that, because my Q&As are filled with like, hey, best weight cutting tips so I feel good wrestling on the mat. It's like, dude, you just cut 10 pounds overnight. I'm sorry. Like, I don't have anything to absolutely solve that problem. We can look at what you're doing. We can manage that, and we could try some things that help the situation.
Yeah.
But again, like the high-low method, it's awesome. People recover. They still get sore and beat up. Like it's part of what happens. So that's a cool thing we do. Talking about like we were talking about like volume and range of motion. Mm-hmm. So we don't do crazy range of motion with our heaviest lifts right now. Like we're elevating our trap bar deadlifts. We'll do like floor press instead of bench press for some guys on their heaviest sets. Mm-hmm. And then with our lower accessory lifts, we'll go to those deeper ranges of motion. But right now, I think like we do our high pin squats and things like that aren't crazy muscle stretch. And I think that seemed to help a little bit with leg soreness.
Yeah.
Another little thing for recovery. But it's all about like, let's look at what you're doing. Let's try to manage that first. Then let's set up routines where you're going to get an adequate amount of sleep, where you're going to get enough rest and recovery for you to be ready to go for practice or for a lift or a workout, whatever it is. And let's try to set up your nutrition in a way that is going to help you as much as possible.
Yeah.
Other than that, I like all the little stuff. It's fun, it's cool, but at the end of the day, that stuff is so little compared
Yeah.
to managing load, sleeping, nutrition.
Yeah. And I know like I'm about to get into like one of those topics that you're talking about, but I know for me, I always loved like the Normatex. Those are amazing. Like those are the best, especially when you're cutting weight and your body's hot and you just want to sit in those. Like
Yeah,
those feel great. They don't take
for
away
sure.
soreness, but in the moment, like when you're sitting in those, it's like, oh, this is nice. But anyways, like
So
oh,
so
go
yeah,
ahead.
ice right now is kind of like a topic that people are a little off and on about. It to me, it's similar to any of these passive meaning like you're just laying there or you're just sitting in a stretch. You're not giving your body like an adequate amount of stretch,
Mhm.
like a lot of stress. But it's one of those topics right now. Like ice is kind of people are saying like don't do ice because it's kind of mitigating the inflammation. The inflammation is what's going to help you um going to help your body adapt. So you
Mhm.
get inflammation, your body sends help, you adapt. All that stuff is good though in the sense that it it gets you out of this high stress state and allows your body to just take a breath and relax.
Yeah.
So like from a physiology standpoint of like your legs are have some inflammation or they're just sore, so the norm techs will cool them down and maybe numb them and get rid of that inflammation. That inflammation is probably good to a point where your body's going to then send help, going to help that muscle recover, and then you're going to adapt and get even better than you were previous to that inflammation.
Mhm.
That's the thought and idea. The amount that you get, like I said, is what's going to make you feel like, oh crap, like I can't move,
Yeah.
or like this is great, I'm good to go, let's get better.
Yeah.
Um, but I'm becoming more of a fan of that stuff with wrestlers that are in season because I need wrestlers to just be like relaxed, like, all right, I'm
Yeah.
okay. Let me just tone it down a notch. Let me get into a more relaxed state, and that will help your body recover a lot. And
Yeah.
that's part back to the high low method. We have days where we do ramp up our system and we're stressing our systems and we are so ramped up, but that next day we can hopefully get into more of a state of like, all right, we're more relaxed, we're not crushing ourselves, we're not, at the top right now and just stressed to the gills.
Yeah.
So stretching, icing, all those passive modalities that may not have long-term effects, I've gotten more into. I've
Yeah.
gotten more like, look, if foam rolling makes you feel better and you're going to be more relaxed so that you can ramp it up for practice or lift, awesome. Go
Mhm.
for it. That's again another big thing I get to, and I'm rambling a little bit here.
Oh no, you're good.
We need to have you get relaxed so when we do want to go, we can go. Like wrestlers just live in this like more state that you never truly get to go down so you could go even higher than you were before.
Yeah.
Do you think Usain Bolt jogs between his laps that he runs or his 100-meter sprints? Like, no, he completely relaxes. He walks, he gets back so he can absolutely go nuts.
Yeah.
There's no way that he can run his top speed if he's jogging back and forth.
Mhm.
So we have to get to that side sometimes.
Yeah.
Wrestlers don't like to because it feels annoying to take that long break.
Yeah.
But we need to relax so you can push even harder. If
Mhm.
you're always pushing as hard as you can, you're missing out.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think a lot of that too has like it's just like the mind, like just like being able like sometimes you just think you're working harder than you actually are because it's just like wrestling's so freaking tough. And it's just like,
Mm-hmm.
God dang, like any little hard lift, like frick, gosh dang, dude, like the lift was so hard today. Now we got to go to freaking wrestling practice. So I think a lot of that too, like the Normatex with me is like, that might not even be helping me a ton, but the
Mm-hmm.
placebo effect of being able to sit there with that cooling, like, and just sitting on my phone and the trainers after I lift, like
Mm-hmm.
that mental, like, just like reset of like, okay, I got my recovery. Like, even if it's not the best recovery, like it's at least placeboing my mind to be able to be like, okay, I did something good after I lifted. Like, so my mind feels like I'm still like, doing all the right things rather than if I just like went straight back to the dorm and like sat there, and I felt like that worked for me. And then going off that too, like you talk about sleep, and I know how important sleep is. Obviously, sleep's very important. And like I hear like a lot of like for example, like our school was like saying like 8 hours, like you need 8 plus hours. But like for me, I felt like 6 or 6.5 hours, I would wake up and I would feel the absolute best. And so go just talk about sleep, and then any like anything that you've learned for yourself, or any information you have to pass on about that, because I know that's super important, and just plays such a big role in like your life, your mental health, like your academic performance and your athletic performance.
So sleep is just your biggest reset possible.
Yeah.
Everything is at its lowest state. Your body's not working super hard. It's recovering as much as it can, right? Your stress is as low as it could be. That's why if you're going to take your best resting heart rate measure, it should be as soon as you wake up. It's your most rested time.
Uh-huh.
To the effect of why you felt better on 6 or 6.5 versus 8, I can't speak exactly to. Um, it's a little peculiar, but what could also happen is like maybe the times that you're going to sleep or the times you were waking up, that stuff plays in a role. Maybe your body just liked being up at a certain time. So
Yeah.
like maybe you just liked being up at 6 a.m. Different from 8 a.m. And the state that you were in when you woke up was a better state for you to wake up versus like maybe you were in a deeper sleep, or just like 8 a.m. Your cortisol levels were off or something like that. So I can't speak exactly to that. I'm a fan of just like the more sleep the better.
Yeah.
But at the same token, like you said, like you don't want to be drowsy all the time. So you have to find a routine that works for you.
Yeah.
The times that you're going to sleep and waking up can also impact when your body is giving out hormones. So like there's some validity to the point of staying on schedule and getting a little bit less sleep. So say like you're used to waking up at 6 a.m., you love 6 a.m. wake ups, your body is up at 6 a.m. You do it for 5 days straight, and then you end up not being able to sleep on that fifth night or something like that. Still wake up at the same time just because your body is kind of like, all right, this is the time I'm getting up, I'm ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
You might feel good doing that. So the type of sleep that you're getting and the sleep schedule that you're on will definitely play an impact as well. Also, napping is amazing. If you can take naps, I'm into that.
Yeah.
Napping, I know some people are like, I'm so much tired. I'm so much more tired after a nap.
Yeah.
Try to go either 30 or 25 or 20 minutes and below. That's going to be more of like your quick energy. All right, like I got that little bit of drowsiness off me.
Mm-hmm.
Wake up and feel better. After you wake up from that nap, both this short nap, and then I would also say like try to go 75 minutes or more, or like 90 minutes or more if you're going to go on the other side. The middle is where you start to get drowsy, where you
Yeah.
start to go into that deeper sleep, but you're not quite getting enough deep sleep to make it as worth it.
Mm-hmm.
Wake up from those. So again, 30 minutes or less, 90 minutes or more. And then when you wake up, try to like get some cold water on you. Might be obvious. Just go. That might get your drowsiness. Try to get your heart rate up. Maybe go for a walk. Get some sunlight. That stuff can help wake you up right away.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's something I noticed. Like, man, I would like sometimes I'd be taking like, super long naps, or like maybe even in between that, like 20 or 30 in between the 75. And I would wake up for practice, and holy cow, I'd feel way more tired and I hated that so much. So I was like, that was something I was always battling with, because like for me, like some people just like don't like sleeping. Some people just like don't like to sleep. It's the like to me, it's the weirdest thing ever. But to them, I'm probably the weirdest guy ever but like for me is like, especially during season, like I love taking naps just because like, it's a good mental break from just like all the things you have going on and all the stress you have going on. Maybe you have a big match, so whatever. So it's a good mental break. Two, it's just like you feel relaxed. And so for me, it was like I always found like 25 minutes would like do me perfect. Like I'd go to sleep, I'd be tired from like morning lifts, take a 25-minute nap, and it was like I was waking up, and it was like I reset and I felt so much better than I did. But anything over that, I'd wake up and I'd just be so drowsy. And so I know, I didn't know your opinion on naps, and I wanted to kind of hear that because some people are like, "Oh, naps, like, oh, you're lazy if you take naps or whatever." Like, so,
Yeah,
yeah,
I have um uh my whole stance on like laziness and mental toughness and discipline is like I am so big on doing what you have to do to get better.
yeah,
And like, I have a video coming out soon. It's like I was always the guy in high school that like I drilled the fastest. I got the most reps in to wake up before school, go lift after practice, go um after practice, go to other practices or go for another workout. But like there were big flaws in my actual wrestling that
hmm
I didn't work on. Where
yeah,
like instead of running those sprints after practice or like keeping a faster pace was like just slow down, drill what you need to drill, get better, do what's important, do that extremely well,
yeah,
and then all the other stuff is kind of fluff.
yeah,
So like the naps thing, it's like napping or playing video games or whatever. If you're like that has nothing to do with anything. I think like
uh,
a ton of time we get caught up in like this big lifestyle thing. It's like, were you ready for lift?
hmm
Cool. Were you ready for practice and gave that your all? Did you journal and figure out how else you can improve? Did you sleep? How was your nutrition? Was all your schoolwork good? Like those are our huge rocks.
yeah,
Let's go crazy on making those amazing.
yeah,
And then the little things are like, we'll see.
individualized, yeah,
Yeah, exactly. More individualized. Yes.
yeah. And then so kind of going into like the last question that I had for you is like, okay, so that you got people like, they went through a season, they're like, oh, I was cutting too much weight. I wanna go up a weight class, or I want to go up 2 weight classes next year versus like, hey, I liked where I was at this year. Maybe I was at 149 this year and I felt really good at 149. I want to stay at 149. So going into the summertime, as a trainer, how would you what are the big differences, the key differences in like training someone who wants to gain weight classes or even if it's a football athlete watching this, like, that wants to put muscle and put weight on versus someone who wants to stay the same size but gain muscle.
I don't know if there's that big of a difference.
Uh-huh.
The difference is going to come on the calories side. So you
Yeah.
have to be eating more calories to go up a weight class. But I don't know if the lifting is going to be that much of a difference. It's
Yeah.
going to be more individualized, but I still have like my macro, my, postseason, off season, preseason, in season. I have those four main phases. But I don't know if they're going to be that different. You can say like let's do a little bit more hypertrophy or muscle building work,
hmm
but I think that stuff's important for everyone. I don't always look at that rep range as like we're going to put muscle on. I
Yeah.
look at that as more like I look at it just like different adaptations and different capacities. So I don't know if there's that much of a difference.
Yeah.
Like for me, I don't think it's that worth. You'll probably just have more energy to lift more, is
Uh-huh.
what I would say.
Yeah.
Like your ability, like I need to stay the same weight class, so I'm not going to put on muscle. I think that'll have to do more with calories, and that'll have to do more with maybe amount of sets, I would say. So
Yeah.
like instead of doing those extra sets to put on muscle, probably just tone it down on the amount of sets that you're doing.
hmm
If I could give one thing on that. But again, let's focus on the bigger rocks, calories, and where you are as a high schooler or a college athlete. Like I have a colleague or strength coach at a different Division 1 college that that we went back and forth a lot. A good friend of mine, and he's kind of more of like let's not do any muscle building work or that kind of stuff in the preseason or in season because of that. Like we don't want to put on muscle, and that's something I'm playing around with. I think I don't think there's a black and white answer of like you're going to do this amount of sets, this amount of reps, because those rep ranges that are considered muscle building are still important to get like uh health and capacity and building muscle endurance and that kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
like it's impossible to be like no muscle building if you're trying to stay the same weight class. You'll really have to lift a small amount. I'd have to see where that person is in development, um, how that person's feeling, where they're at as a wrestler as a whole. I think it's too tough of a topic to just give a blanket answer, other than like calories and nutrition is going to dictate your more than anything.
And then when like you increase calories, like what are good like calorie fillers for someone like say you want to go up a weight class, you're like, oh, and they don't eat that much. Like some people eat a lot, some people don't like to eat that much. And so like, hey, I want to gain weight, I want to gain like whatever, I want to bulk is what people call it. Like I want to bulk. And like, but they're eating 3 meals a day. So kind of talk about like good things to eat or good like times to fill those calories in when like you're having breakfast. I mean, most people don't eat 3 meals a day, but let's just, for example, like I'm eating breakfast, I'm eating lunch, and I'm eating dinner. My breakfast is a good breakfast, my lunch is light, and my dinner is heavy. What are like good fillers like to fill in like those calories and good things to put in your body that will fill those calories, if that makes sense?
Yeah. So are you talking more like the hard gainers, or
Yeah,
that just
just
like
like
they have a
someone,
tough time gaining weight?
someone that has a tough time gaining weight, they want to put more weight on.
I always tell them to do some of the opposite things that you hear when people are trying to lose weight.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as you wake up, let's eat as much as you can,
Yeah,
or let's get as many calories in as possible.
yeah,
PB&J, um, extra, maybe like using oil or butter or something like that. Let's get extra calories in as soon as you can when you wake up, because you'll have the whole entire day to replenish and feel hungry again, and then eat more calories. The same thing goes at night. Like, don't eat before you go to bed, or like try to hold off a little bit after dinner. It's like, no, that's time where you could be eating and getting calories in.
yeah,
Use it. Eat before bed. Do those things, because at the end of the day, like, calories is our main big rock. Let's work everything off of that. So like, I made a video about that, and people were asking me like, what about digestion? Isn't that going to be affected? So like, recovery and sleep's going to be affected. And it's like, yes, they will be, but you have to understand this give and take. There
yeah,
is no way to have everything perfect. So it's worth the extra calories that you'll gain in the weight and the recovery from that side, that you'll lose with the digestion and the sleep. So
mm-hmm.
I like to say, eat all times of the day, eat as many calories as you can, and sometimes go unhealthy.
Yeah,
Like, that's another thing I tell people, like, dude, you're not going to gain weight off grilled chicken and sweet potatoes. Like,
yeah,
you're just not.
yeah.
So like, you already have a tough time eating a lot of food. So
Uh-huh.
now we're going to eat these foods that I tell people to eat when they're losing weight. Like, how does that make any sense? They're there to fill you up.
Yeah,
So you get filled up super easily. Let's not add all the foods that fill you up very easily.
yeah.
Take away, have a little less broccoli and have a scoop of ice cream. Like, we have to go a little bit unhealthy, really just calorically dense, to
Yeah.
go and gain those calories with not eating a lot of volume.
Mhm. Yeah.
So
That's a good way to
that's a
think
big thing
about
of
it.
mine.
Yeah, that's a great way to break it down. Like such a simple way to break it down. It's like, okay, like you want to gain weight, think about what you would do when you're cutting weight, or think about what your buddies do when they cut weight. Do the opposite. Like that,
Hmm.
yeah, like it's so simple, but it's like so true as well. And so then a couple of these questions that I asked last night on my story, like most of them been
Hmm.
answered. Um, one thing that I wanted to hear, and maybe we covered it a little bit when we were talking about cutting weight, is Jacob Taplin asked biggest cutting weight mistake that you see as like someone who has a lot of knowledge in nutrition, someone who comes from, being a wrestler, like background as a wrestler and a strength coach. And so you have a lot of information of just like, cutting weight or things that you should be doing. So biggest cutting weight mistake that you see within your own life of other people doing as a coach.
I had a post some time ago. I'm actually gonna look for it because it got some good responses, and I think I summed up well, and that's always what I send people
Uh-huh.
whenever they ask about cutting weight.
Yeah.
So I just want to go through that because I don't want to miss anything, or be all over the place. Let's see. I should probably pin this. All right, here we go. So, it's like this is was more for before the season because this post was made in the preseason, and this is something we talked about a lot at the high school and at LIU. It's like, do it now, start in September, start in August, stay around your weight, and you'll have to cut less weight. Everyone's like, oh, I want to get huge, I want to get bulky, and it's like, you do to a point.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yes, you don't need to be shredded all year round,
Yeah.
but gaining an extra 20 pounds from the weight you're going to wrestle, it's not worth it. It's just not. Like, I get it. And I don't want to get into like the eating disorder stuff where like wrestlers literally feel like I've had wrestlers be like, I literally just ate because I can right now. And I'm like,
literally me. That was literally me.
yeah. And I hear it all the time. They're like, all I want to do is get big. I want to do nothing. And I want to just eat as much as I can. And I'm like, all right, let's try to scale that back a little bit. Understand that you're going to be in this point in the season. Let's try to make that more favorable next year. You're going to be here again. Let's just get to where you can. But look, that's a whole nother topic and something that I see a lot, and it saddens me because it's like people are just eating just to eat, and that's. I did one of my college projects on eating disorders in wrestling and binge eating because it's like, yeah, these stories that I hear of eating, and they're like, all I wanted to do was just eat, so now I'm doing it. And it's like,
yeah,
let's take it. Let's zoom out a little bit. Let's see what's going on. So
Yeah.
so that was a little more. That was preseason. Be very hydrated when you're not cutting weight. So if you can weigh 141 or 148 extremely hydrated, you got to make 141. You're gonna feel better. You're gonna lift better. You're gonna practice better. You're gonna be able to you're gonna be able to work out harder and then cut more weight. So if you get maybe 148 very hydrated, it's probably worth it than being like 146 and a half dehydrated because you're so worried about cutting out water and all that stuff. Be hydrated. Maybe you're a little bit heavier because you are hydrated, but be very, very hydrated because then you'll have plenty of water to lose when you go to cut that weight.
Yeah.
Cut water last. It'll come off the easiest. So people want to cut water so early on and be dehydrated for a week out. And it's like water is going to come off your body the quickest. So let's try to do that more towards the end. Let's not be dehydrated for a week. Let's be hydrated and just sweat a lot. And maybe it's going to be sitting in a sauna or something like that. But let's just try to sweat a lot. I remember my favorite weight cut in college is when I went in so our weigh-ins, and I was just like, look, I gotta warm up anyway. I want to get a hard warm-up in. Let me just go there early, a pound and a half over, and get a crazy hard, intense workout, that a great warm-up that gets me ready, and I'll lose the weight there. And it was amazing. Like it allowed me to be heavier because I was feeling okay, and I just was able to sweat out that last little bit when I needed to. So it's like, they kind of all follow each other. So it's like, be hydrated, and then at the end, try to cut that water. Don't cut the water super early.
Yeah. That's like such a big thing too, that like I felt like it's just like the stigma of like how your teammates look at you when you show up to the arena like overweight. They're like, oh, like, even though there's some people, like, for me, like, I was cutting weight in the arena like morning of or like before the duel, like all the time. And so that was something that was just like I adjusted to. And like obviously if you're 3 over, like that's a different story than like 1 below. But like, like I think that's something to like that, like, and wrestling that like we just need to normalize as well. Is like, hey, it's okay if you show up to the arena a little bit overweight, because like you look at it like, boom, you can get a harder workout than you would, after an hour weigh-in, where it's like you don't have that much time to work out because you want more time to like recover and get water and food in your body after weigh-ins. And like, so I was the same exact way as you. Like I was like, man, I'd rather come in here and lose 0.7, 0.8, work out really hard, and then weigh in and kind of like flow and just go light during my warm up. And so I could put more stuff in my system. My stomach wouldn't hurt. And then I'm up 5-6 matches in. And so like that's kind of how I would do it, and that's how I like to do it. But like a lot of my teammates were like, I do not want to show up to the arena overweight just because of like a stress thing. And so like
Yeah, and I hear it all the time, like kids that are like, it's Wednesday for a Saturday tournament, and they're like, I'm one over, and I'm like, dude, why? And they're like, I just don't want to think about it anymore. I
yeah,
just don't, I'm just tired of this whole thing. And
yeah,
it's like, I get it. I get it. It's tough, but let's try to make performance the number one thing here. And let's try to just manage that a little better. So that's a big thing for me. And at the same token, it's like, again, 12 or 22 years old, there's a big difference. That 12-year-old, I'm like, dude, get on weight. Like, I'm not letting you put this in your own hands that much right now. You're the
yeah,
seventh grader who just like, we need you in this duel.
yeah,
That 22-year-old, we have a 22-year-old, uh, one of the kids on the team, or like my friend last year, they're a little heavier and they'll be like 7 pounds over the day before. And you hear that initially and you're like, yo, what's going on? And they're like, I know I'm going to sweat it off. I
yeah.
lose this weight every single time.
Mm-hmm.
So just let me do it. Let me be, and I'll be fine. And
Yeah,
they're right. Like,
they are.
so at that age, again, you were in college, I was in college, like, kind of had a better understanding of it. So it's like, okay, do it. You're good. I'll let you handle it. Again, 12 to 22, probably a little bit of a difference in a maturity thing to that.
Yeah,
So figure out more individualized approaches by seeing what works for you and how it can fit your schedule. But
yeah.
I 100% agree.
Yeah, and I think yeah, everything's so individualized, like, and that's the most important thing to like recognize is like we wonder why Penn State's doing so well is because they're individualizing literally everything within their program. And like the
Mhm.
best programs, the best performing programs nowadays are just so individualized, and they have coaches, so many coaches, like, like an assistant coach looks over, like maybe it's like I'm from Missouri, so like, I'm thinking of like Kendrick Maple at Missouri, like he's looking over,
Mhm.
he was a 41, 49 in college, and kind of, so he's looking over like his 41s, 49s, 57s, with Keegan at 65, like, and that's the
Mhm.
great thing about like expanding wrestling, expanding the amount of coaches you have on staff is like, it's such a tough sport, but when you can have coaches who individualize the wrestlers, it makes it it takes a lot of weight, and especially like the strength coaches too, nutrition coaches, take so much weight off those wrestlers' backs, which makes it overall a much easier experience than like it would be for college wrestlers in the past. And so I love to see that too. But
And
yeah,
yeah, and that just, it goes back to like the look, find your routine that allows you to maximize and prioritize the things that we need to focus on.
um,
Those big rocks that I spoke about before, like, find the routine that allows you to do that. I know guys that love to stay up late doing work. I know people that love to do it as soon as they wake up.
mhm,
Doing the work and doing that schoolwork and getting it done is the important thing.
yeah,
When you do it isn't as important.
yeah,
So yeah. And another thing I talk about is like, this can get a little confusing sometimes, but if you're 1 day out or 2 days out and you're starting to cut that water weight, that's going to be where the main part of your weight loss is coming from,
yeah,
right? If you're starting to sweat out weight, you can start to now have high calorie foods, and I encourage them
mhm,
because the calories are going to give you a lot of energy,
yeah,
and that energy can be used to go work out and go sweat more.
yeah,
So some of the carbohydrates like rice, and they'll hold on to water. To what degree, I'm not 100% sure on, but I do recommend, like, let's not go with those longer lasting carbs on those days because they'll hold on to the water, preventing you from sweating more. But it's like PB&Js are could be sweet because
mhm,
it could be like, all right, I'm feeling a little better. I got some calories in my system. Let's go have a hard practice. And it's like you gained zero point 0.1 or zero point 0.2 from a PB&J to go lose an extra pound.
yeah,
Like that PB&J allowed you to go sweat off another pound, and now you're on weight and now you're good to go.
mhm,
Like, we have to start playing around with calories because they help so much in giving you energy. So
yeah,
like, go down 300 calories of honey before practice, because you'll be able to just wrestle harder, sweat more, and that's going to help you, be on weight.
Yeah, and it doesn't
So
weigh
I
that much. Like there's a
doesn't weigh that much.
yeah, there's people like that and think, oh, it's like this many calories. Like no, like you look at like it. I forgot the exact thing, but like I know, like I would look at sodium, and then I would look
Sodium,
at
yes,
yeah,
100%. Yeah,
and then I would look at like, oh, if it says it weighs like point 0.1, point 0.2, but it has a lot of calories, is like, oh, for sure, I'm eating that because that's gonna fill.
exactly,
Yeah, and it's
exactly. That was my thought.
yeah. But yeah, Eric, thank you so much for coming on. Yeah, it's been, dude, I think it's been like an hour. I think I told you
I could go for I could go forever.
I know, me too. Like I wanted to go
Yeah.
off, into I think we should get on soon again because I want to
I
talk
have time. It's up to you. Whatever you want to do. We can split this up into two.
about
Um, I mean, if you have stuff to do, I can go do stuff. Whatever
yeah,
it is.
I gotta get
Because
off here
we
to
haven't talked about any strength stuff or any. I'm very passionate about like return to play.
yeah.
Let's do another one.
Yeah.
And we'll talk all
I
about
gotta
that
do
stuff.
something in 15 minutes. I gotta be somewhere in 15. So
Go.
I'd be down to hop. Thank you so much for coming on, dude. Make sure you guys follow him, Eric_Pullman Performance on Instagram. He has the most valuable just wrestling health and performance coaching stuff on Instagram. So make sure you guys go leave a follow, drop a like, drop some comments on there, show him some love. But yeah, Eric, talk to you soon, man. Thank you.